Welcome. It's Debrup on air. I'm your host Debrup Laha, and this is the International Lens, where we dive into the real life stories of international students in the US. I have been in your shoes, earning both my bachelor's and master's degrees here, and now I'm working full time in the States. This podcast series is for you, whether you're already studying in the US or just planning to. Every week, I'll bring you conversations with students from all over the world, sharing their journeys, challenges, and triumphs. My mission? It's to give you the insights and inspirations you need as you carve your own path in the US. So, whether you're dreaming of studying here or already on your journey, this podcast is your ultimate guide. Tune in and let's make your American adventure one to remember. Today we have with us a first year PhD student in biology at University of California at San Francisco, Mr. Bivas Nag. Welcome, Bivas, to our podcast series. It's been a pleasure to have you. And how are you doing today?
Thank you, Debrup, for the invitation, and I'm glad that I can come to the podcast series or hosted by you and share my experience. I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Doing well. It's getting cold here in the East Coast, but that's how it is. So, for our listeners and viewers, could you tell a little bit about yourself and your educational background and qualifications?
Hello, all. I'm Bivas Nag. I did my bachelor's from St. Xavier's College, Bombay, where I studied life science and biochemistry. And after that, I moved to Germany, Munich, for my master's in molecular and cellular biology. From there, for my thesis, I came to Yale University. Did my thesis. I did a thesis for 1 year, and thereby I started applying for my PhD. And the college that I finally decided to join was UCSF. Currently, I'm studying stem cell and developmental biology with a focus in neuroscience.
Makes sense. So currently you're doing your PhD. Could you, before we get into more details, could you walk us through about your application process and what are the do's and don'ts for a PhD student if they're planning to apply for a PhD program in the US?
I think the application process, I think application is a package itself where every document has its own value. So I never say that, one document holds the utmost value. It's a package. Your CV has some points, your SOP has some points, your letter of motivation has some point, your recommendations have some point. But most importantly, I feel like letter of recommendation is one of the key thing,
Okay.
at least in my field and at least in the other like biochemistry and physics field to get into it because people count on that. And apart from that, there's certain tricks and terms, and there are certain myths that people have in mind when they talk about in terms of PhD application. For example, I didn't have any publications or any reviews or anything,
Yeah.
and it is very dependent on field. So normally people say, you need to have publications to get into PhD, but they don't say in context of what, in context
Yeah.
of which subject. Let's say, for example, a computational biology, you are expected to have a publication because those works happens very fast. But for our field, let's say for developmental biology field, since we work with mice and other stuff, it's like a long process of research. So people don't expect publication from us. So there are certain myths. So these are terms said in a lucid way of you need to have publication and people get scared. So one of the things is nothing is mandatory. It's about your project. You have your strength. There are three advices I would always give to a student is first, uh, when you're writing your essay, you have 1,000 words. Everyone has 1,000 words. It's up to you what you choose to present. Someone can talk about strength and weaknesses both. Someone can talk about only their weaknesses. Someone can only talk about their gap year or something. I also had a gap year, but use the 1,000 words to sell yourself properly. I think that's the main important. And I always focused on highlighting my strength rather than highlighting my weaknesses. I felt like,
Yeah.
weaknesses can be there and they can easily identify in my CV. Second advice, at least what helped me a lot, is even if you're applying to the graduate school, it's always better to reach out to the PI or the professors that you're interested by a cold email and sort of create a more professional relationship before you actually end up applying to that program. They can vouch for you and they can say, I have already spoken to this person and this person is very good, so you should take him to the program. So this is people normally don't do it because they think, oh, it's a graduate school, we'll apply only to the graduate program. Third and most important tip, um, all the common uh, common notions that are there in like outside regarding application. Let's say, for example, you need to give IELTS and TOEFL to get into PhD. You need to have publications to get into PhD. It is very subjective. It depends on university to university. Till now, the all universities I applied, there was no requirement of IELTS and TOEFL since I did my
Yeah.
undergrad in English. I never appeared for IELTS and TOEFL. Second, there was no requirement of publications. And third, also, even if on the graduate school website there is written that, we don't give application fee waiver, it's always good to write to them saying that, I'm an international student, I don't have any income currently, so can I get a waiver? And it works for me. I applied to 10 colleges during my PhD and got 8 waiver out of 10. So
Great. Yeah.
even it was not mentioned on the website. So don't go with common notion what is there. Try out yourself. It's always recommended to mail the graduate committee to ask for further help.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. So a couple of key pointers you mentioned here was publications are not always mandatory. It's definitely good to have, but it's nothing is mandatory. And then you should always ask for application fee waiver, which is subjective, but there's no harm in asking.
Exactly.
Definitely ask and then get a response either ways. And the other thing which you talked about, the essay, and just for our listeners, the essay is the same as the SOP, correct? Which is
Yes, exactly.
okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's a very good way you summarize. So thank you very much for that. Moving on to, so when you did your bachelor's and your master's degree, you also mentioned that you came to Yale for a year for your thesis. So did you do any other internships during those period or?
Yeah. So in my bachelor's, I did couple of projects. It was not more of a like internship, but couple of projects which was related to my um like college curriculum. But apart from that, I did 3 to 3.5 month internship in TIFR, one of the lab, but it got shut down because of COVID. So I was the COVID batch, like my third year was entirely COVID batch. So that was my initial experiences. Then I went to do my master's. During my master's, I had like a broad range of exposure because I chose a master which has less course, more of exposure. So I did 3 internships over there,
Okay.
which was around 4 to 5 months each. And there I exposed myself to different domains of neuroscience because I was interested in neuroscience. And then I applied for my master thesis.
Makes sense. So your master's degree program was also for 2 years, right?
Exactly.
And during that 2 years, you did 3 internships, is what you mentioned. And in addition, you also did a thesis program at the Yale University in the US. Oh, that's
Exactly.
a very broad and diverse experience. I would say you utilized every bit of your time during your master's. So that's a very important factor that students should keep in mind, that since time is very limited, it's very important that you utilize every bit that you have with you. Interesting to know that. So while you were doing your master's, since you already came to the US, you had a little bit of an idea of how the education system in the US is. But still, when you were applying for your PhD programs, did you face any challenges, or were there any seniors or mentors who you reached out to for any assistance?
Yes, I think that it's very broad and in terms of when you plan to apply to US because every every universities has their own some or the other requirements that you need to fulfill. So yes, I reached out a lot to my seniors as well, like a lot of alumni from my contacts, a lot of like I even reached out to professors. One of the professors I met in the conference, and he was like, you should apply to this program because I think according to my experience your profile fits to that. So that's why I always emphasize, reach out via cold email because email doesn't take any money from you.
Correct.
So I think that was my key to get into it. I used to randomly, you know, because you will, if you go to these social medias like LinkedIn, Twitter, there are other people who also do uh SOP check or something sort of that. I reached out to a couple of professors who were posting out, I am a new PI and I have already gone through the steps of what you're doing. So I'm happy to like guide PhD students. I used to reach out to those people and used to send my, essays to them. The only advice for doing this is you need to keep your documents ready because these people are very busy and they need time to, go through your documents. So I reached out widely. At least my essay got reviewed from at least 15 to 16 different people
Oh,
before I
wow.
finally
Okay.
submitted. I submitted my 17th draft of my SOP to like the schools I applied for. So I think uh, that was the major thing. And also I took help from a lot of my professors. So particularly for biology, there is a group called STEM Peers in
Yeah.
Facebook, which is again made by Indian alumni who are currently settled in US, particularly in the field of biology. And they also provide a lot of guidances. They also help. They are mostly for like postdoc and industry, but they also provide a lot of guidances for the PhD students. So I also went to those. It's an NGO basically. So I went to reached out to those people as well.
Okay, that's good to know. So yeah, couple of key points here again is networking is the key, and always keep all your documents ready because time is money and everybody's time is very valuable. Very good to know that. Thanks for your insights on that. For our next question, I would like to ask you is if you could go over a little bit about the coursework that you're doing and how the course structure is for a PhD biology student.
Coursework is like so in my particular university, I don't have to do TA because we normally get funded without doing TA. So
Okay.
TA is not a requirement here. Uh, the coursework is spread across 3 semesters, so we need to do coursework in 3 semester, first 3 semester, and which also included one rotation project, which is around you work in a lab for 6 to 8 weeks before you finally decide a permanent lab for your PhD. So there are 3 rotations, each rotation in one semester. So the coursework is was little intense in my first semester because it has like classes almost uh 3 days a week and it ran for like 3 months. So
And how
that
many courses did you take every semester?
no, we don't have to choose. It's like there are 3 mandatory courses. We need to
Okay.
take each of the mandatory courses. There's a limited number of courses. So in my particular program, I had one course which was very intense in my first semester, and then there was a rotation project. But in the second semester, there are 2 courses which is very like okayish, not that pressure. Along with the rotation. In the third semester, we have only mini courses, one mini courses, optional mini courses that we need to do.
Okay.
So this is my particular program structure.
And is that the same for a master student as well with respect to the coursework only? Or is it a little different who's coming for a master's in biology?
Master student is more of a coursework intense
Okay.
during their first 2 semester, and then they get like the component of research where they have to rotate in a lab and then choose a rotation lab. So their course a little heavy in terms of like since I only had one course in my like first semester, they normally have 3 to 4 courses in their first semester, and
So,
like per course increases, number of courses increases per semester.
okay. Good to know that. And since you're a PhD student, are there any comprehensive exams that you need to take at any time or any qualifier exam of any sort?
Yes, so in my particular program, none of these courses has any exams.
Okay.
So we only had like home assignments that we need to do, and we are graded on that. Apart from that, to finally start officially a PhD in a lab, we need to pass a qualifying exam. It's more of a presentation-based exam where you
Okay.
present to a panel that what you are going to work in your next 4 to 5 years, and yeah, they ask you question that why you want to do, just to see that whether you're clear about the project or not. So it's a quals exam that we normally have during our PhD.
And is the success rate in that exam pretty much 100%, or is it like a difficult qualifier exam?
I don't know anyone who have failed, so
Okay.
like I'm assuming that it is 100%. So
Okay, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, it's very good to know that because a lot of students often have this question that how difficult it is and what are the do's and don'ts with respect to that. Okay, that's very good to know. Uh, so this summer will be your first summer after your first year of study. So are you planning to do any internships or any research position in any laboratories?
I'm already rotating, doing my second rotation. As I said, like rotations are included as a part of the semester. So I'm already working on my second rotation. And yeah, that's the only plan for now, along with the coursework that I had.
Okay, good to know. All right, thank you. And what are your short-term and long-term goals in your career?
The short-term goal is to at least find a balance between work and the extracurricular things I do. I also want to, I just recently found out a football club that
Okay.
plays here. So I am going not on regular basis, but at least on the weekend. I want to increase that number to at
And
least
by football, you mean the soccer, right? Or the American football?
the soccer, the
Okay.
European soccer, yes.
Yeah, good to know
Yeah.
that because there's been a very big confusion. Whenever I used to tell people football, they used to think American football, and I'm like, no, it's soccer, the
So,
actual football.
so So
Okay.
maybe focus on that because sometimes I get swayed away, and it's easy to get swayed away because people are intense, people work intensely, and you also think that if you don't work intensely, you will be like laid off. So it's like, but it's like you have to find that balance. I'm working to find that balance, and another short-term goal is to navigate the process of saving money,
Okay.
like how you can utilize your money. I'm not even aware of, because till my master's it was my father who was managing my money, so I was like nothing, doing nothing. Now I'm at least like trying to think that I need to do that. So also like sticking to a budget is first and foremost important thing. And long-term goal, I feel like I'm very open in terms of exploring. I am more focused on getting a good mentorship, because
Okay.
I feel like for an international student, it's very important to find a mentor who can understand that you are an international student. You will have limited opportunities in future, so you need to be groomed in that way. So the PI, the professors that I've already chosen, they have like at least one of the other international state. So the current professor that I'm rotating with, he did his like PhD in Edinburgh. So he know, and he is a full-time professor in UCSF. So he know what needs to, thrive in a society like this. So I think those were the keys. I was looking for a mentorship. So at least do a PhD in a lab more than a project focus. I would focus more than a lab environment and more of a good mentorship where I can learn and get those skills, because getting a position in US is not about you knowing all the skills. It's
Correct.
also about how you sell yourself. It's also about how you network. It's also about how you approach the right person. So I think this is my main goal. And I'm also open to like explore academia as well as industry. And my PIs are also very open to that. So they're like, take your chance to explore all the field and keep your profile ready. So that is the long-term goal.
Okay. Thanks for a detailed answer on that. And on the same note, if you were reached out to by a recruiter today and you had to talk about your top 3 to 5 skills, what would those be?
The first skill is like I if I talk about my technical skills, I'm very good at like, I have worked experience in different model organisms. So in biology, we work with different model organisms. I'm very good at mice experience. I'm very good at like stem cell model. So technical skills I'm still learning, but I'm pretty good at my own stuff. My second would be teamwork and collaboration. So since I've worked in 3 different countries, I know how to adapt and work in a different team setup. So second is that. And third work is like I know how to network and how to collaborate. So if in industry, it's very important to like collaborate with universities to get into those details and getting to understand those details. So I'm good at that. And I think fourth will be also I'm very good at public speaking and scientific communication. So if you want me to present something in a grand presentation or something, so I think those were the four key things I would highlight myself.
Correct. And these are very good skills that you're bringing to the table, even for any company as well. It's not just for any presentation in academia, but also in the industry. Great to know. And aside from work, you mentioned about your soccer, football is one of your hobbies. Are there any passion projects or anything that you do on the side?
Yes, so I also try at my best to help out students.
Okay.
I normally regularly post in LinkedIn about my journey, about the other application documents that people need. Also, I have like community services where I have one NGO which is working currently in India called Dreaming Destinations, where many of my friends who already have gone to good colleges, they come in to give advice. We organize webinars. I also have WhatsApp community of around 4,000 people where we do personal guidance as we give them tips and uh, uh, tips and advices of how to prepare your application. I also do check their SOPs and other stuff. So trying my best to at least give those all documents and all problems that I faced in a more what to do, how to navigate, because I feel like there are a lot of informations there on the internet, but there are too many informations for people to get overwhelmed. So, and also I feel like a lot of the information that are there on the internet are mostly are not written by the international student. So a strategy that works for a, let's say, a student who is studying in America and applying for a PhD in US, it's very different as compared to a student studying in international background and coming to US. The strategy is different because if you see in a course, if there are 7 seats, there are only one international student spot. So you're fighting for that one spot. So you need to highlight those. So I think navigating that process people haven't explored. And so I'm trying to at least bridge that niche because I feel like that's a very important niche. Because when I was looking for information during my PhD, I used to follow a lot of this, popular LinkedIn faces that are there, but I felt like more of them was giving generalized advices, or more of them are giving, either they're settled in like US and giving advices to apply for US, but I need to make those changes in my application to get into it. So I think putting those in front is very, I think I'm trying to do that. So
I'm very glad that you mentioned this point because, like you mentioned, there are too many information available in the internet and not always are applicable to an international student. And you coming from India, you have been in the US in the past and using your experience and learning from your mistakes and also giving the same information to the next generation of students so that they don't face the same problem is a very good thing that you're doing. And it's really commendable, I should say. And on the same note, then I believe you're looking to build your network more. So can future prospective PhD students reach out to you for help for their PhD applications in different US universities?
yes, I think I will be happy to talk with them and navigate their problems, and I'm happy to look into the other documents as well. So yeah, I do it regularly, so I will be happy to continue that.
Very glad to know that. Thank you very much for that information. So for all the listeners and viewers, please reach out to Bivas via LinkedIn. He is very active in LinkedIn, and I do see his posts from time to time, very detailed and very focused. So definitely reach out to him for help. You mentioned about your short-term goals in the near future. I wanted to know that like from a general perspective, when students think about biology as a program, they mostly see academia as one of the bigger sectors. Can you talk a little bit on how the industrial roles are like and what are different niche skills that are needed to crack any interviews in the industry for roles related to your field?
I think people talk about academia because people are not aware about the industrial exposure.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. When you come to do PhD either in Europe or either in US, you see that all these top labs that works over here have close collaboration with industry within their research. So let's say if I'm doing a project, there will be a part of my project which is collaborated with industry. So you normally get a connection to that particular university, to that industry. But the major problem that international student faces during in my particular biology program is like the issue of the visa issue. Like people don't want to give them H1B or some visa for the industry. So, which was also my notion, there it will be very difficult to get a visa and do an industrial transition from academia. But if you pull the right strings again, if you do internships, so there's the option also to do industrial internship during your PhD. So you spend 2, 3 months in a particular industry, work there, build your connections. Also, I think if you go out to this lot of conferences, like there are a lot of conferences happens around here, which is like focused where industry people also come. You present your poster, you go to the conferences, and you also connect them. I think main key feature I believe, particularly in the field of biology, needed to get into industry is networking because skills are same. People don't get trained differently. Okay, you have to go to industry, so you have to go for the skills. You have to go to academia, you have to go to the skills. So people don't do that because I believe every research currently in the field of biology is translational research, and every skills can are needed in the field in the industry. So I think network and collaborators would be my suggestion if someone wants to crack the core of getting into industry.
Okay, thanks for the information. And on the same note, you already touched about conferences, which was my next question. In your field, could you talk a little bit about what are the different conferences which are there, and are you planning to attend any in this academic year?
Uh, I think I will be going to one of the conferences. I'm attending a couple of conferences in California, which is
Okay.
happening in California. So there I'm going to that. But for international conferences, I'm planning to attend one in November. Particularly, it's a conference in Hong Kong, which is
Yeah.
focused on my field of stem cell biology. So hopefully that we are, but I don't know about the current situation because of the funding and stuff. So I'm like still like hoping that I can do that.
And since you spoke about funding, are these normally sponsored by the university and the lab, or is it mostly self-funded? How does it work?
No, so normally in lot of like since also studied in Yale, lot of the conferences are normally funded by the university in your first 2 years. But in my particular university, it is not the case. It is the fund that is given by the PI. So PI funds you. So I don't know, like I will never go to a conference which is like self-funded unless and until it is needed for me because
Yeah.
normally people get funds through their PI or the university.
Okay. And another question which I had from the viewers was, when you're applying for a PhD program, often people have this notion that you need to choose your advisor wisely. So do you also look at how much funding the advisor already has based on which you're choosing them, or is it just the skills that you look for?
I think funding is very important because in US it works like this, like you get funded for your first 2 years by the university, either by doing TA or either by the university fund, and then you have to be sustained by the funds of the PI. So PI needs to fund you for the next 3 years. So funding is definitely a thing you should look out to. It's a difficult conversation that you need to do at some point of your time before you choose a lab, that to ask whether you have a fund to do to support me as well as also to support experiments that you want to do in future. So I think this conversation, I am very clear when I make this conversation with my PI, I just straight away ask it. I know that people, try to escape this because it's a difficult conversation. How will you do it? So I think my session will be do that. And again, when I talk about choosing a mentor, I feel like my mostly focus is on how the mentor vision has a vision of mentoring myself, like what are the skill sets she wants to inculcate in me, what are the skill set, does my future perspective also match with what she visions me as in future. So I think those type of connections are very important. I think work culture wise, yes, lab mates should be, you should talk to lab mates as well, see that whether what BI is telling is matching with what they have experienced or not. So yeah, talking to lab mates, going into like the mentorship part, I would focus more rather than any other thing. And mentorship is very important because it's at the end of the day, your PI is going to be a very good part of your entire future because PhD is a long degree. So
Okay, so it's not just the research interests and the skills that are of importance, but also whether funding is important, and it is very essential that you like sort that out or have that conversation before you start your program, then
Exactly.
decide later. Good to know that. And my last question to you would be that when you are doing your PhD, let's say your grades go bad for some reason, for a semester or so. Have you heard of students who have started their PhD with a full funding, but for some reason their funding got canceled or they were let go of the program?
It's not that common, but it had happened with some of the people, with couple of people I know. In that case, what happens, like that's why I think US as a graduate school is very important, because graduate school take your ownership. Let's say your PI ran out of the fund. Let's say you join the lab after 3 years, your PI ran out of the fund. So the graduate school support the student in finding a co-mentor or a co-PI who can
Okay.
support that person and do some project which is related to those two people. The only disadvantage is like the number of years that you're doing the PhD might increase from 5 to, let's say, 6 years, but you will be supported, at least in the field of biology, unless and until you go to a university which in which they don't even support students. You have to only do TA to get funding. In that case, sometimes it becomes tricky if if your university is going through a big financial issue or something sort of that. So I think uh apart from that, there are a couple of cases, as I said, which was like on that. So, and people reached out to the graduate school, director, and they have tried to at least manage and fix that issue in some or the other way.
And with respect to immigration, that shouldn't be a problem, right? And
No.
in case your PhD program is extended by a year or so, that should be fine.
Yeah, it should be fine because again, F1 visa people are happy to issue you the I-20 form, and I
Okay.
think yeah, it's okay. And the average, I think in one of the people senior I know, he was also from India. He did his PhD in 7.5 years because he had the same issue where he had to shift the lab, so it was fine for him as well.
Okay, so we are coming towards the end of this podcast. So I think we covered very diverse topics and it was great speaking with you. And I hope the viewers and the listeners will definitely gain some valuable insights from this. Any concluding comments for our viewers?
I think I think keep your mind open when you're applying to PhD. Very important. Don't get swayed away with the common, lucid notions that are there because there are so many informations and it's easy to get. I think if you have doubt, best to reach out to the graduate school because they know the answer. They are the final people. And yeah, I think I will say a thanks to you because I think you helped me a lot regarding onboarding to US. I think a lot of the credit goes to you as well in terms of at least, navigating through the finance, especially. I think I follow you on Twitter as well, on WhatsApp as well. You have the community. I think that helps me a lot to at least get some understanding because it's very difficult when people from your family doesn't go abroad and they don't have any idea. When I came to US, my father said that it's your time. You need to manage your own finances. I was like, okay, I never worked on credit score or something sort of that. So I think that navigating made was made easy by you. And I think yes, there are as I talk about this, like there are communities like we have created in our WhatsApp community. There are communities which are available. I think you should look for that. When you look for that, you will get it. So you need to do that extra step. So find work that extra step. And always as an international student, remember this, it's one document you're going for. You need to highlight your strength. You need to know how to sell yourself. If you don't know how to sell yourself, again, you're competing for that one spot, and there are thousands of applications. So learn how to sell yourself. Sometimes selling yourself is good and it's needed in the field we are in.
Thank you very much for the kind words. And I'm just trying to do like what you're doing as well, just trying to help international students as much as possible. And I can definitely vouch for you that you will be a great mentor for any international students who are coming to the US. even if they're not in the field of biology, I believe with your experience, you can guide them to some extent from a general perspective, or you can probably refer them to somebody else who is related to their particular field. Thank you very much again for your time. I look forward to speaking with you again in a future episode, and hopefully by then we'll have more information to share for the prospective students.
Yeah, thank you, Dada. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you
inviting.
very much. Thanks for tuning in. Got questions or suggestions? Drop me an email at debruponair@gmail.com. Catch you in the next episode. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.